So today we're going to show our Sudoku web application that you can play Sudoku and then compare your scores with your friend through leaderboard features. So I'm going to show how to set up and get the web application started. So first you can see that when it's not connected, the site can't be reached. So let's fix that problem by going into the terminal and then connecting to the server. And now it says connection established, and if you refresh it, you can see that it is connected now. And before getting started, we are going to set up our SQL as well. So we're going to go into the SQL by putting in the command and enter the password, please. Then we're going to set up some tables and database using the commands that is in the README for the GitHub. So first we're going to set up the database. We are going to create the database. And then we're going to use the database. And we are also going to make two tables. One table is for keeping track of the user password and the username. And our second table would be about keeping the user score so we can create the leaderboard and see who is better at Sudoku than other people. So yeah, and if you put all the commands inside, then you're done. You're done setting up. So now if we go see it, we're going to show the create account, which is our registration function, and also the login page. So let's try to create account first. So let's create a user with username 1 and password name password. And you can see that it gives an error if it's not 6 characters long. And if you submit it, then it will tell you that the password has to be at least 6 characters long. So if we keep more typing, then you can see the other message disappeared. And if you submit it, it says the user is registered. So let's try to create another user having the same username. So if you resubmit it, then you can see that the username is taken. And before trying to logging in, we're going to go to the database and see that the password is encrypted. So if we do select from users, you can see that we have the username 1 and the password that is encrypted using Assault, and we use bcrypto.js for that. And now let's go back to the login page and we can try to sign in. Also, important thing to note is that when you're not signed in, you cannot go to the other page, so you cannot play the game. It says that please log in to view this page, and also you cannot use our function viewing the leaderboard as well. So in order to use game and leaderboard, then you have to be logged in. And you can see that you know what you are, which button you're hovering on by the color change. And if you click on it, you can see that the color turns white, so you know what page you're on. So let's try to sign in using a bad password. So if you use a bad password, and let's just put in pass. The username is 1 and the password is pass. Then you submit it and you can see that it says it's an incorrect password. And this time, let's see that let's put, a different username and a password. It says the username is not found. So you'll know that you have to create an account if that's the username you thought you used. Okay, so let's actually log in using the username and password we created. And you can see that you're logged in now. So since you're logged in, you can go into the play game page and the view leaderboard page. So before moving on, I'm gonna show you the code that I used for the salt to show that I used salt. Yeah, you can see that I'm using bcrypt to hash the password before saving it. Okay, so we're logged in now, so which means that we can actually play games. And we can go into the websites, the play game site and the viewboard, the leaderboard site.
So now that we're on the game screen, we can actually go ahead and play some Sudoku. So you'll notice that this screen, as before, has the nav bar at the top and a bunch of text at the top, the actual Sudoku grid, as well as some buttons at the bottom. Or up here, we're being prompted to select our difficulty level. So our game currently supports 3 levels of difficulty: easy, medium, and hard. And in fact, if you try to play the game without selecting a difficulty, you're going to get a little error message just letting you know that you should set your difficulty level. So we can go ahead and do that by clicking on this link over here. So this screen allows us to select between easy, medium, and hard. So I'm going to go ahead and select medium. And now this text up here has changed to reflect the difficulty that I just selected. You'll notice as well that we have a timer which will begin to count up once I actually start the game. And let's take a closer look at some of these buttons. So if I hit play, what's going to happen is that, so we just made an API call to an external API that provides Sudoku games or Sudoku boards. So I've gone ahead and just pre-filled the board with what was returned by the API, and you'll notice that I can't actually edit these squares because they're pre-filled, just as in a normal Sudoku game. But I can go ahead and enter whatever numbers I want for these other squares. And we've also differentiated them by color so that users know what was given to them and what they entered. And you'll also notice up here that the timer has began running. So let's say that I'm playing Sudoku and I try to validate my scores before I filled out the entire board. So if I go ahead and click that, I'm going to get an error message just letting me know that I haven't filled in all squares on the grid, and that I should do that and then try again. I can also clear the entire board, which will reset the timer up here and remove all the numbers from the board. And at that point, I can hit play again, and this will simply regenerate, will generate a new Sudoku board. So just simply mainly for testing purposes as well as grading purposes, we left in this little feature here, which is a solve button. Obviously, if we push this code to production and actually hosted this website somewhere, we wouldn't have a solve button, but we thought it would be smart to leave that in here just so that we don't need to solve the Sudoku each time we want to test the features. So let's say I hit solve, and this makes the API call to actually get the answers to the Sudoku board and then fills it in. So now at this point, if I hit validate, what's going to happen is that it's going to highlight all the squares in green, and it's going to enable this submit button, which will actually log the username, the difficulty, and the time taken for the user to solve the game. So if I hit submit, this timer will stop and our scores will be recorded. So I can go ahead and do that. And once I do that, the board gets cleared, everything gets reset, and we can play Sudoku any number of times. And in fact, just to demonstrate one last feature, I'm going to go ahead and hit play again, which generates a new board. Let's say I hit solve, but let's assume that if I was actually playing the game that I had a few numbers that were wrong, and I just change them to some other number, and I can do that once more over here. So now if I go ahead and I try to validate this board, it's obviously not correct because I changed some of the numbers, and this is going to give us an error message down below that tells us that there's an error in our solution. And in fact, I also went ahead and highlighted the actual squares that contain errors, and this will just make it easier for users to locate where their mistakes are and do something to correct them. But for now, I could just go ahead and hit solve, and then hit validate, and then this is correct, and I can submit my answers. So that's essentially how the game logic works for the game screen. We can also go ahead and take a look at the leaderboard. So since I just initialized this this instance of the game and I recreated the database, there aren't going to be any scores already in here, but we can go ahead and view the two iterations, the two games that I just played during this demonstration, and you could see that when I hit medium, it's going to show me my username as well as the time taken, and I know that it's the scores for the medium because the medium button is highlighted. And if I hit easy, it's just going to be an empty table, but I can go back to the play game and I can reset my difficulty, play the game, have it be automatically solved, validate, and submit. And if we go back to the leaderboard and I hit easy, you'll notice that this table gets updated and our original runs from before are still there. And lastly, if I return to the login page and let's say I create a new account, just do Shivank 1. So I've now logged in with a different account, and let's say I go ahead and I play one hard game, have it be automatically solved, validate, and submit. And let's say I also go ahead and play one easy game, just for the fun of it. We can validate that, just have it be submitted. And if we go back to our username, if we go back to the leaderboard, we'll see that for every table where there are multiple users, they actually get separated by username, and they're ordered by the time taken, so in ascending order. So the shortest times appear at the top of the board, and this is true for every single leaderboard. So yeah, that has been this Sudoku game. Thank you for listening.